All right, welcome back to the podcast. Two protects one, coming in with a political video today. All right, Ian Carroll is under fire for speaking his mind about the Jews, Epstein, client list, all that stuff. He went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I have a clip pulled up. I have not watched the entire podcast. Okay, I will say that. I have not watched the entire podcast. I am going to do that today. But I did find this clip kind of interesting. I got about halfway through the clip, and I'm like, all right, let's bookmark this thing. Let's talk about it. All right, because it seems like a forbidden topic. You can't talk about the Jews, okay? You can't criticize the Jews. You can't even be slightly critical or you're labeled anti-Semitic, all right? And I think you should be able to criticize any group of people. I don't care who they are, Christians, Jews, Muslims, even down to races, black, white, Mexican, Asians. You should be able to criticize anybody. And anytime there is a protected class, I think it needs to be exposed. Why are they protected? Why do they get special benefits? And then other races or other religions or other sectors of people, they get criticized or bashed or just absolutely taken to the woodshed. Okay? So Ian Carroll, he is slightly controversial. Okay? He has some controversial takes. Whether you like him or not, I don't really care. What did he have to say on Joe Rogan that has everybody fucking fired up? All right? So I was on X today, and some lady, I don't know who it was. It was like somebody that works for Jordan Peterson, says that you shouldn't be able to say fuck. Like, you shouldn't say fuck. It doesn't make you look or sound any more smart or professional and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? Fuck that. I'll say whatever the fuck I want to say. So, and that's pretty much how I feel about it. Am I special because I use that word? No. Okay, but don't try to police my speech. Don't try to say every time somebody that says something against Jews is anti-Semitic or that's hate speech. It's just not true, okay? Like I said, I don't care who you are. You should be able to be criticized. And I think a lot of what Ian Carroll says, now I don't know what's covered entirely in this clip. I'm going to give you like the context of what's in this clip. So this was actually posted by another follower or another person on Twitter called Sovereign Bruh, which I really like his content, his appearances on the Whatever podcast. He hasn't done it for a while. I'm hoping we're going to get that, get him breaking out of that, and hopefully he starts to show back up a little bit. But I really do, appreciate his content as well. But Sovereign Bra, God, I cannot talk today. He said, and this is a quote, it says, out of all the information, this is a quote from the clip, it says, out of all the information that's getting disclosed by this administration, what do you have the least faith will come to a conclusion on? And that's Joe Rogan asking Ian Carroll. It says Epstein. Ian Carroll answer says Epstein, and I think it's because of Isreal. When you really dig into Epstein, his entire network was Isreal. Okay, so that's kind of giving you context of what this clip's going to be. So let's go ahead and dive in. We'll jump in and see what Ian Carroll has to say about the Epstein client list, this administration, so on and so forth. Let's get into it.
Out of all the information that's getting disclosed, supposedly this administration, what do you have the least faith that we're going to come to
Epstein,
a conclusion?
for sure.
Epstein.
And I think it's because of Israel. I think that
No hesitation. He says Epstein. That is the one thing that he does. The Epstein client list, all of the documents that the FBI is holding on to, that's what he thinks will never get disclosed by this administration.
because I think, I mean, when you really dig into Epstein, his entire network was Israel. It was clearly like Ehud Barak was the ex-prime minister and the ex-head of Israeli intelligence. Leslie Wexner was one of the most powerful pro-Israeli philanthropists. The whole organization was Israel.
So
and I'm not saying it was all of Israel.
It was all an intelligence gathering, and
it was targeting Americans. It was targeting American officials and the American president.
Right.
And the CIA does have interest in those targets too. Elements in the CIA does. Certainly they had help from the CIA, and certainly they had help from these other organized crime and intelligence operations. But you don't like, so for example, Dan Bongino, the new deputy director of the FBI, he recently had this clip that went all around where he said on camera that he had a source that he trusted deeply. And he's an informed guy. He was at a Fox News interview, and the source told him that Epstein was working for an intelligence agency in the Middle East. And I don't know which one, but someone in the Middle East. And to be fair, we all already knew this. We already know who he worked for. At least I think so. But I'm looking at, okay.
So a lot of people have already stated, and he says it right here, a lot of people have already believed that Epstein was really an Israeli asset and an asset of the CIA as well, and that a lot of what he did was to blackmail and put, famous people in compromising situations and record them, and basically he would have politicians, musicians, movie stars all under his control once he puts them in compromising positions with videotapes, evidence. So this was like a big, what I believe, and what I believe that Ian Carroll's about to talk about right here, is that this was a big Israeli plot to compromise political figures, and then also the CIA was involved to keep, your movie stars, your actors, your actresses, your musicians all compromised and been able to get across the same type of message. That's why every time you see like Trump running, now I'm not saying Trump's, innocent in the situation, but every time there's like a talking point against like the liberal agenda, you see all of these movie stars, actors come out and say the same shit. It's because they're all compromised. They've all been either involved with an Epstein-like situation or Epstein himself, and they're compromised, and you're getting the same damn talking points. And we've known this for years. At least I have. Not everybody, but I've known this for years. When the Epstein shit came out, there was all this information that's being, which is very little, the information that's being revealed right now was revealed 5, 6, 7 years ago. So, it's just crazy to think about. We still don't have answers when it comes to Epstein. We should know it all by now. He's dead. Ghislaine Maxwell is locked up in prison for, I think, like 20 years to life or something like that. Why don't we have answers? Okay? And that's just, I don't think you're ever going to have answers to the Epstein. Like, who was on the client list? Who was involved? Who did what with who? And we don't need to know who the who is. We need to know what the fuck happened. Like, I understand covering up and not exposing the victims, but we need to know who the fuck was involved. And are they still working in politics today? And what kind of influence do they have on our politics, on our foreign policies, on our tax dollars? Like, what is really fucking going on? And I don't think you'll ever really find out the answers. So anyway.
And the source told him that Epstein was working for an intelligence agency in the Middle East. And I don't know which one, but someone in the Middle East. And to be fair, we all already knew this. We already know who he worked for. At least I think so. But I'm looking at, okay, Dan, so if this giant group of Jewish billionaires is running a sex trafficking operation targeting American politicians and business people and stuff, you think they're working with an Arab or Muslim nation in the Middle East? Like, you think that Leslie Wexner is devoting his entire life to philanthropies on behalf of Israel, but then he's going to work for Saudi Arabia when he's doing this trafficking ring?
Right. But if someone says to him, that they're all working for a country in the Middle East, knowing he knows what that means, but not specifying? Doesn't he kind of have to repeat it that same way?
Well, he also has to repeat it the same way because he won't get the job if he says Israel, because
Exactly.
Israel has
Right.
so much control over our government right now. And I'm not saying that all Jews are in on something, clearly.
Okay, so he is correct. You have to look into APAC. Okay, look into APAC. They donate huge contributions to both sides, Republicans, Democrats. So when a lot of people say, "Oh, China's our biggest adversary," or "Russia's our biggest adversary," they're the biggest threat. No, I think what is our biggest threat is Zionism and some of the highest, like he says, not all Jews, okay? But there are some very wealthy ones at the top of the list that is controlling American politics on both sides. Not just Republicans, not just Democrats, but they got their grubby little hands in our political system. And I believe that they are not our greatest ally. Okay, that is the talking point and narrative on both sides. Anytime Israel is faced with some kind of threat, oh, we got to protect Israel. They're our greatest ally. Are they really? Because I don't fucking see it.
Internet. Thank
Clearly,
you.
internet.
And Joe is definitely not saying that.
Definitely not.
But the Israel's government is as vulnerable to the deep state effect as the American government. But I would argue that Israel's government is way more vulnerable to it because of the people that founded Israel and the way it was founded. It was founded in a modern time, much more recently, by it was a revolutionary founding. And I can totally sympathize with the Jewish desire to have that state. I get it. But because of the way that happened, the people that founded Israel were a bunch of organized crime figures in America, the Jewish mob, that were helping with money and with arms trafficking to get the guns there because they had to have guns. And it was the Rothschild banking family sending a whole bunch of money and getting the declaration in the first place. And then the people that were there, the three different organizations, the Irgun, the Lehi group, and the Haganah, those were the three paramilitary groups that fought to found Israel, and they're the heroes of Israel, which I understand the narrative that they're heroes, but when Israel was officially founded, they officially designated Irgun and Lehi as terrorist organizations because they had been bombing civilians. They'd been bombing British civilians. The first official act of terror before they changed the definition was the bombing of the King David Hotel, where these terrorists, these Lehi and Irgun terrorists, a bunch of different groups, the guy who planned that bombing later became the prime minister of Israel. They were bombing civilians. So when those are the groups that are fighting to found that nation, even if all the Jews there are wonderful people, the leadership is inherently composed of these people that have been deeply corrupt for all time. And so you get this fertile ground for this kind of deep state effect to take power. And when you start to research the heads of state of Israel over history, you realize that a bunch of them were in those groups doing those terrorist acts and have done a bunch of dark stuff because those were the people that were at the top of that military organization. Those terrorist organizations reformed to form the IDF.
And what's interesting is
party.
you can talk about this now,
Exactly.
post October 7th.
It opened wide open.
Post Gaza.
You want to know a funny story, actually? I didn't know shit about it. And I started doing 9/11.
Now, and see, the thing is that a lot of people criticize Ian Carroll, okay? They're like, oh, man, you're anti-Semitic and blah, blah, blah. They call him all kinds of names. But the one thing they really can't say is that he's wrong. Because he has done his research, okay? He's done a lot more research on this topic than I have, okay? But the dude is correct, all right? Just go back and look at it. I guarantee you look this information up and he's going to be correct on it. He's done a lot of research. The dude, I don't know, man. I think the amount of heat he's catching today, he's went over the target and he's pissed some fucking people off. And it's crazy.
Stuff. And I was doing a 9/11 video on my YouTube, and I knew about the dancing Israelis conspiracy theory that is very much a real set of documents. And I knew that I'm not allowed to talk about Israel for some reason, and I didn't really know why. And I realized like I better fucking understand this thing before I crater my new channel and career on this topic I don't understand. If I'm going to take a stance against Israel at all, I should understand why and how so I started doing research, and I shelved that research and I switched to researching Israel and Palestine and the history there and what's going on. And I finished the video, and it was October 6th, and I was like, I was very worried because it's like you weren't allowed to talk about it. And I had just made this whole documentary about the history of Israel Palestine and the propaganda and what it all was. And I published it on October 6th on my locals channel. And I kind of had this like lean back and like, if that's the end of the ride and I get canceled for this shit, so be it. And then literally the next day, and I'm not saying that October 7th was a good thing, but I'm saying that literally the next day, the entire internet was ablaze about Israel and Palestine, and everyone was talking about it. Wow. And it was the weirdest fucking coincidence. Like, and suddenly it was like, oh, all right, let's fucking dig this thing open. Because unfortunately, it is, I mean, I think that the state of the Israeli influence that sustained them for so long, that was essential to them surviving this long, I think that it has grown cancerous to the Jewish faith in general, because Jeffrey Epstein is the perfect example of this. Jeffrey Epstein was the world's most prolific and evil sex trafficker that we know of so far, ever. And he very clearly...
That's the key word, that we know of so far. Apparently there's other ones out there that haven't been uncovered yet. And that's the one we know of. All right. Now, I will say one thing. Diddy, Puff Daddy or whatever, he's got some shit going on too. And I'm telling you, I don't think you'll ever find out the depth of his dealings with like human trafficking and shit. I don't think you'll ever see that. Now, a lot of his stuff was homosexual as well. But there was a lot of like sex trafficking and prostitution and all kinds of shit wrapped up into there. Now, with P. Diddy, you probably won't find out all the information on that either. They'll cover that shit up. So, but yeah, this is crazy.
Israeli influence that sustained them for so long, that was essential to them surviving this long. I think that it has grown cancerous to the Jewish faith in general, because Jeffrey Epstein is the perfect example of this. Jeffrey Epstein was the world's most prolific and evil sex trafficker that we know of so far, ever. And he very clearly was a Jewish organization of Jewish people working on behalf of Israel and other groups. And so that's a dark stain on Israel and on the Jewish people if you own it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean,
out of all the information,
let me go ahead and get out of that. And that's the thing, like, will Israel ever own it? And the whole thing about October 7th and the attack that happened, I just don't believe that Israel is this like big superpower over in the Middle East, and they have all this like security and stuff, and you're gonna tell me that, a bunch of, terrorists got into like they almost look like big wheels with a big ass fucking fan on the back of it. And they parachuted in and did this like terrorist attack. Okay. I don't know. I think Israel allowed it to happen to have an excuse to bomb Gaza. And they've continued bombing it. Okay. They've pretty much wiped it off the fucking planet. Okay. And, I don't trust the whole thing with, Trump saying, "Oh, we're gonna buy Gaza," or whatever. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on over there, but it just doesn't seem good in general. I don't trust Israel. I think that they do not have the best interest in mind for the United States. Actually, I think they have very evil interest in mind for the United States. I don't want to be involved in anything over in the Middle East, whether it's defending Palestine or defending Israel. I don't give a shit about either group of those people. I want to put America first, the American citizens first, and, let the Middle East sort its own shit out. And that's just how I feel about it. But I find it like very concerning that every time there's like, even like just a word attack on Israel. Somebody comes out and speaks out against Israel. You have like everybody on the right, everybody that's like this big con Inc. right wing influencer. They come out and go, Israel is our greatest ally. And then you have all the politicians coming out. We should protect Israel. We should do everything we can to fight against anti Semitism. And it's like, whoa, wait, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, is anti Semitism our greatest threat? No. I believe that our greatest threat has a lot to do with Zionism and Israel. I think they're starting a bunch of shit that they can't back up themselves, and eventually it's going to take the United States to fucking fix their problems. And I want to stay, me personally, my personal stance on the Middle East and going to war over there is staying the fuck out of it. Okay, I watched my brother, a lot of my high school friends go to Afghanistan, Iraq, and they come back and they're never the same. Or they're not the same, is what I'm trying to say. You know, it took years off of their lives. Okay, and then you don't think about all the people that went over there and died. Like, why the fuck are we going to the Middle East? Leave it the fuck alone. And that's just my stance on it. So, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting clip by Ian Carroll. I'm going to go back and watch the whole episode, the Joe Rogan podcast, maybe pull out some more clips. But he is under fire today. So if you see Ian Carroll today on social media, go follow his pages. Hell, he might be nuked off of social media here soon. Anytime you come out and you speak out against Israel and the Jews and Zionism, you take a chance. Okay, and that chance is they just wipe you off the fucking internet. So hopefully that doesn't happen to him. Hopefully that doesn't happen to me. But we'll see. All right. We'll see how long I stay monetized on YouTube. All right, so that's it from me today. I just want to say thank you for coming and checking out the video. If you like it, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. As for YouTube and my political opinions, they are going to stay right here. I had a thought of removing all my political content and only releasing it on Rumble. That is not going to happen. I have decided to go back on that statement and keep my political content right here on YouTube, where it belongs. All right? YouTube, Rumble, I don't give a shit. I'm posting it, okay? Because these are my thoughts, my opinions, and what I think of U.S. politics today. So I'm going to keep sharing, and I encourage you to continue to share your opinion too. Don't let anybody silence you. Continue to speak out. Continue to tell the truth. So that's it from me today. Hopefully you have a blessed day. God bless you. God bless your family. And God bless the United States of America. I'm out.